There we go. Okay, good. All right. Awesome. Great time. And Ryan, where'd you go? Well done. Super well done. Thank you. I'll never forget the first time I heard that last song. I was driving here on a Sunday morning, and it was on the radio. And I mean, it was like, wow. I'm going to say that story for the 27th, but thank you for that reminder. All right, this morning we'll be in Matthew chapter 20. So if you have your Bibles available, we're going to look at that whole chapter this morning. So I want to set this thing up by, I'll tell the story, we'll get there in just a minute, but Matthew chapter 20, so have your Bibles available there. We are so blessed. We have terrific kids. I couldn't be more proud of all four of them, but I've got one. There's always that one. And that middle one especially, and he's a great kid. He's right over here. Nathan's 15, going one of those 15 going on 19 deals. He's grown 6 inches this year. I'm almost eye to eye with him. It's kind of scary. But we have had one time in his life that the boy got in trouble in school. So I guess for that we need to be thankful. But I will never forget the day he was in. Honey, where are you, baby? What was he? He was in kindergarten. He was in kindergarten, and we got a phone call from the school. It was the principal's office. Don't you love when you get those phone calls, right? We need to have a meeting with you, Mr. and Mrs. Bolts, about your son, Nathan. So we get to the school, and he's there, and he's in the principal's office. And Nathan is the only one of our kids that's blonde. And when he gets mad, to this day, his face will turn so red that his hair turns white. You know what I'm talking about? So we got there to the principal's office. There was no remorse on his face. He was still red, mad, hair white. Just one of those kind of moments. And what on earth have you done, son? Well, here's the deal. They were on the playground, and they were playing kickball or something. I don't know what it was. And some of the kids out there were not playing by the rules. They were cheating. And in Nathan's book, that's just anathema, man. You don't cheat. You play by the rules. He's had this thing since he was little. Maybe y'all have seen this before. No fair. No fair. It's not fair. Everything for him, he wanted it to be fair, And so he wanted to play by the rules. And since they weren't and the teacher wouldn't make them, he yelled at the teacher, "But they're not being fair!" And we found out that will send you to the principal's office. But we like that in our sports, don't we? We like to have rules, and we like to know that the referees are calling the game right. In fact, that's why we have instant replay. As much as we may complain about how it lengthens out the game, there is nothing that will make a fan more upset than a blown call or a missed call or an unfair call by the referee or the umpire. So that's why we have instant replay. And it's not just in sports where we value fairness. It's true in many areas of life. Even this whole, in economics and all this stuff that we're hearing. If you've been watching the news and you listen to the language, you got these two sides and both of their heels are dug in. And, well, nobody will come to the table and talk. And, we need to have give and take. And it needs to be quid pro quo and 50-50. And you hear it, and all this stuff, it's about how we gotta win, and if you're gonna come, if I'm gonna invest, if I'm gonna make sacrifices, if I'm gonna make compromises, then you need to make sacrifices, and you need to compromise just as much as I do, so that it can all be fair. We see this played out in our marriages, in our families, between siblings and neighbors. I mean, we've got this value, especially in Western culture, where we believe people need to play fair. But here's the question for the day. Is that something God values? Does God value fairness in the same terms that we do? Is fairness central to the message and the purpose of Jesus? In this series that we're calling The Heart of the Matter, we're looking at the teaching of Jesus as a way of understanding God's heart and what that looks like for us. And so today we're at Matthew 20. And again, I'm going to tell the story. You can read down through it if you want to. But you've got this guy that owns a vineyard, is a landowner, owns a vineyard, and normally vineyard owners they had full-time employees that would take care of the day-to-day maintenance of the vineyard. But when it came to harvest time, they needed more workers. And so this vineyard owner goes to the marketplace, goes to the town square where people would go if they were day laborers and they needed a job. Maybe they'd been furloughed by the government, they needed work to do. But that didn't come across like I wanted it to. Too soon? Too soon, okay. But at any rate, they need a job. So he goes out, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. And he goes up and he begins to talk with them and he says, okay, I've got work for you to do. And I'm going to pay you a denarius, a day's wage. Let's say it's $30, okay? So they agree, okay, handshake, they go to the vineyard, they begin to work. Then about 9 o'clock in the morning, he needs to go get donuts for all the guys that are working, right? So he goes back to the marketplace. It's the only reason he could go back to the marketplace, right? So he goes back to the marketplace, and he sees some more guys standing out there, and he says, what are you doing standing around here? Well, nobody has hired us. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll hire you. Doesn't negotiate the wage, just says, I'll pay you a fair wage. And they say, okay, well, it's better than not getting to work at all. So they go to the vineyard, and they begin to work. The guy comes back out there at noon, at 3 o'clock, and at 5 o'clock, and each time he finds guys standing around there who don't have any work for the day. What are you doing out here? Nobody's hired us. Okay, go to work for me. I'll pay you a fair wage. Now, the people that were hired at 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock, they didn't think that they were going to get paid nearly as much as the guys who started working early in the morning. But, they were going to make something. Something's better than nothing. So, okay, fine, I'll go to work. So they all go to work. Now it's 6 o'clock. End of the day. It's time to pay everybody. And the landowner does something kind of unique. Now, we're used to hearing last hired, first fired, right? So he says, no, last hired, first paid. So he lines everybody up. And you got the guys that are out there that came to work at 5 o'clock in the evening. And he says, okay, it's time to pay you. Now, they're not thinking that they're going to make very much. They've only been working for an hour, but maybe I'll make a little bit of, milk money or something, right? But a guy and he pays them $30. They're thinking, wow, this is pretty good. I mean, I've only worked for an hour. That's $30 an hour. I wish I'd worked more hours. Now, you think about the guys down here that have been working since 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock in the morning. They're looking at these guys that are making $30 an hour. They're thinking, dude, I'm going to make some good money today, right? This is looking golden. I like the way this thing is shaping out. Okay, so pays them $30 an hour. Then he gets to the folks who went to work at 3 o'clock. And he pays them $30. Well, they've been working for 3 hours. They're making $10 an hour. Hey, that's not too bad. That's okay. That's cool. Then he comes down to the guys that went to work at noon. And he pays them $30. Well, okay, I've been working for 6 hours. It's what, $5 an hour? Okay, Then he comes to the guys that have been working since 9 o'clock in the morning. And he pays them $30. So they've made $3.33 an hour. Now, you're one of the guys who's been out there since 6 o'clock in the morning, right? You're looking at these guys that are all getting paid $30, and you're thinking, you'd already spent the big bucks that you're going to make from having worked all day for $30 an hour. And he comes to you, and he pays you $30. That's $2.50 an hour. Now, wait a second. Let me get this straight. So, wait. So you've got these losers, these guys that don't even start working till 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and they get paid $30 an hour. I'm in one of these guys. I got up early before the sun was even up. I got out to the town square at 6 o'clock in the morning so that I could go to work. I've been out in the sun all day long picking grapes, and you're going to pay me $2.50. You're going to pay me the same thing you paid those guys that came to work at 5 o'clock. Is that fair? Help me out, people. Is that fair? No. There's no way that's fair. I mean, if I'm looking at that situation, do I feel like I've been treated fairly? No way, man. I'm calling my union rep, We got something's wrong here. Well, they didn't have a union rep. So they went and complained to the manager, to the boss, to the landowner. Hey, this isn't fair. What you've done here isn't fair. We pick up the story in Matthew chapter 20, verse 12. So these who were hired last worked only 1 hour. They said, though you made them equal to those of us who borne the burden of work all day long in the heat of the day. But the landowner answered one of them, I'm not being unfair to you, friend. Didn't you agree to work for a denarius? Didn't you agree to work for $30? Take your pay and go. I want to give the one who was hired last the same as I gave you. Don't I have the right to do what I want with my own money? Or are you envious because I'm generous? So the last will be first, and the first will be last. Underline that, put a dot there, think about that. We're going to come back to that. Then you've got this weird thing that happens in chapter 17. Totally out of place. It's just kind of thrown in there. So Jesus was going up to Jerusalem. He's talking to his disciples, and he warns them. This is the third time. And the final time in Matthew, he says, I'm going to go to Jerusalem. I'm going to be arrested. I'm going to be beaten. I'm going to be crucified. And the third day, I'm going to rise again. So you got this parable. Then you got Jesus saying, I'm going to be crucified. And then, almost on cue, the mother of Zebedee's sons, James and John, she comes to Jesus. She has a favor to ask of him. And he says, okay, what is it that you want? We pick up in verse 21. She said, grant that one of these two sons of mine may sit at your right and the other at your left in your kingdom. You don't know what you're asking, Jesus said, to them. Look at that. He didn't talk to her. He knows who put her up to it. Right? So he looks at James and John and says, you guys don't know what you're asking for. You don't have any idea what it is that you really want. Can you drink the cup I'm going to drink? Are you willing to share my fate? Now they're thinking their fate's going to be power and prestige and position. And sign us up for that. That sounds great. We can do it, they answered. And Jesus said to them, you will indeed drink from my cup. But to sit at my right or left is not for me to grant. These places belong to those for whom they have been prepared by my Father. Now I love this. When the 10 heard about this, they were indignant with the two brothers. Why? Because they hadn't thought of it first. Why didn't I get my mama to go and talk to Jesus, for crying out loud, Jesus called them together and said, you know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you. It's not about prestige. It's not about position. It's not about title. It's not about power. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be your slave. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. And then to illustrate that teaching point, we pick up the story in verse 29. Jesus and his disciples were leaving Jericho. A large crowd followed him. Two blind men were sitting by the roadside. When they heard that Jesus was going by, they shouted, Lord, Son of David, have mercy on them. And at that point, the disciples went over to him and said, yes, come on over here so that you guys can have a one-on-one with Jesus. Is that what happened? No. Look what goes on here. The crowd rebuked them, told them to be quiet. Hey, listen, this is going to shut up. That's what they said. You have no right to talk to Jesus. By virtue of the fact that you're blind, it means that you're a sinner. You or your parents, somebody messed up bad. Somebody sinned. Karma's a booger. You're getting what you deserve. You have no right to talk to Jesus, so you just sit over there by the side of the road and shut up. What did Jesus do? They shouted all the louder, Lord, Son of David, have mercy on us. And Jesus stopped. Stop the whole parade. Time out. Stop. What? Stop. And he walked over to them. What do you want me to do for you? He asked. What do you want me to do for you? Lord, they answered, we want our sight. Jesus had compassion on them and touched their eyes. Immediately they received their sight and followed him. incredible story. As I was beginning and preparing for this message, I realized in looking at this chapter, there's really one main teaching point in this whole chapter. So let's recap. You've got the parable of the vineyard. Guys that get paid, worked all day long, the same amount as the guys who worked for an hour. And you've got this phrase at the end, the last shall be first, the first shall be last. Then you've got this mother of James and John coming and asking Jesus to put her sons in positions of power and prestige. Then you've got this next little story here of Jesus healing two people that the crowd didn't believe deserved his time and attention. So listening to that whole chapter, listening to those stories and looking at, if you're drawing a line around this and understand, can anyone tell me what the main point, what the main thesis, I sound like an English teacher here, what the thesis of this chapter is? Whoever wants to be great among you must be your servant. And whoever wants to be first must be your slave, just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. The whole point of this chapter is that God is not impressed by the things that human beings are often impressed by. God doesn't value the same thing that we often value. The story of the workers in the vineyard illustrates that God's not about fairness. He's not about treating everybody equally, treating everyone the same, or deferring to folks because they've worked longer than someone else has. In fact, God's not impressed by seniority at all. Now, my granddads were real impressed with seniority. Seniority was an important thing to them. Both of them, blue-collar guys. My grandpa was a tool and die maker. My granddaddy built jet engines for Teledyne K, and I used to hear him talk about going to work and shop and seniority, and they didn't have to worry about their job because they got more seniority than somebody else, and it was all about seniority. Now, I could pick up. I didn't know what seniority meant, but I could tell it was very important. It's something that's very important, but it's not important to God. Now, the good news for those of you, this is good news for those of you who might say, well, I'm late to the party. I didn't become a Christian as a child like other people do. I started following Jesus later in life. I've even had older folks say to me, but Jim, it's too late for me. I can't be baptized. I'm too old. It's too late for me to become a follower of Christ. As though there's some sort of cutoff. There's an age limit. And nothing could be further from the truth. It's not about what the time that's passed. It's the time that you have left. But there's another application here, and it never fails to me. It happens to me in every church that I've been in, Georgia, North Carolina, here, Indiana. I've heard it everywhere. Someone will come up to me, and they'll say, "Preacher," which, by the way, I hate that title. If you want to get under my skin, call me preacher. It's just one step above chicken eater. That's what I used to get in Georgia. Seriously, they would. And so I just hate that. But they'll come as preacher. I've been in this church for 50 years. Or I've been in this church for 80 years. I've been in this church for 125 years. And I'm nice, and I'll look at them and I'll say, that's nice, that's great, What I really want to say is, hey, that's great, and I'm sure there's some great stories that you can tell, and I'm sure there's a lot I could learn from you, but where are you serving now? What are you doing now? Because the reality is, I'm not impressed by how long you've been here. I am impressed by the impact of your life, and the impact of your life is having because of the sacrifices that you are making for other people today, in the present tense. We've had folks like the Chrismans who were here for a very short time and yet made a huge impact. It's not about seniority, it's about serving. And by the way, this isn't as big an issue in this service, but I feel like I need to remind us, age is not an excuse to retire from serving. I have read this book cover to cover. There is no retirement plan in here. And I have people say to me, oh, but Jim, I'm too old to serve. You are never Never too old to serve. So when someone says that to you, remind them you're never, ever too old to serve. I mean, my goodness, Miss Claudia is 93 years old. She's more than twice as old as some of us in here, you know? But she serves people every single day. She calls folks on the phone. She sends cards. She goes out and makes visits. And she is the best visiting partner I have ever had, bar none. It is hilarious. I call them Driving Miss Claudia days. And we get out, and we'll take a church van, and we just go out and visit people, and she loops that little arm inside my arm, and away we go, you know. And she's amazing. 93 years old. She's my hero. But what that reminds me is, God is not about seniority. He's about service. And you're never too old to serve. God also isn't impressed with titles or positions. That's the story of James and John. Folks, I've had folks tell me again, oh, preacher, I've served in every position in the church. I've been a deacon and I've been a Sunday school superintendent, whatever the heck that is. I've taught Sunday school. I've done this. I've done that. I've been an usher. I've been an elder. I've been, and blah, 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 blah. And I say, great. What are you doing now? How are you laying your life down for someone else now? How are you serving other people now? And I'm not just pointing fingers at other folks. God isn't impressed with my title or how long I've been a pastor. Maybe that's why I'm not wild about titles. Another title I don't like, please don't ever call me Reverend. Reverend. I'm like, if you call me Reverend, you don't know me very well. Because I'm not very reverent sometimes. But I'm not about titles. Because that's not what it's about. It's about how we're serving other people. Am I sacrificing my time, my resources, my energy to serve people? I wrestle with that all the time. Now, I want to say something here. This may be a bit of a digression, but bear with me. I have had, and every pastor has had this. Bill's had it. We've all had it. I've had people during my career accuse me of playing favorites. Every pastor's dealt with that. And what they mean by that is, it seems that some people's opinions matter more to me than others seem to. That other people have my ear, some people have my ear more than others. And contrary to what some people might think, I will sit down and talk and listen to anyone who will come and talk to me face to face, share their concerns, share their ideas, share their opinions, ask their questions. I will do that with anyone because I know I'm going to learn something and they're going to learn something. And I respect people who will come and talk to me and express their ideas honestly and directly and respectfully, who will talk to me and not about me. But I don't value the critical opinions of people who send nasty grams or who remain anonymous and nameless and faceless and hiding behind in the shadows of gossip and send their messages through other people so that when it comes to me, all I hear is there are some people. I'm never going to be influenced or make a decision based on the opinions of anonymous folks known as some people. Okay? I'm not going to be manipulated or intimidated by gossip. I'm not. So just FYI, okay? But you know who does have my ear? You know who has my ear more than anyone else other than God and my wife? See how high I put her? Boy, she's up there on a pedestal. You know who my heroes are? Who I'm more likely to be persuaded by than anyone else in the church? Jan Gregors of the world, who feed the hungry without any desire to be recognized or applauded. Our Esau teachers who help people that other folks won't have anything to do with. The people with a servant's heart who change diapers in the nursery, God bless them. The patient souls who lead our middle school and high school small groups. Pray for them. Pray for them. No, just the questions, the things that they have to deal with. It's not an easy assignment. Not ugly. I'm not bashing on the teenagers. It's a tough job. I appreciate what they do. Our preschool and children's Sunday school teachers who faithfully, week after week after week, pour themselves into our children. The folks who serve on Wednesday night in our kitchen, who are back there cleaning up our plates and our mess after we've dropped everything off and left. The people who visit in the hospitals and the nursing homes, who visit our homebound members, so that our older folks know that their church hasn't forgotten about them. Folks who share the love of God with people who are incarcerated, who are in prison, and who make sure that when they get out of prison, they have an invitation and an opportunity to come and worship. Those people have my ear. And that's not by any means an inclusive list. Not at all. But understand, these are my heroes. These are the people that I listen to. And we have a lot of those kinds of folks here. Folks who serve with selflessness and grace, with no desire to be recognized or applauded, because they know that ultimately, by serving other people, especially the least of these, they're serving God. They know that love isn't a noun, that love is a verb, that love acts, that love sacrifices, that love motivates us to do something. In short, love does. Love does. And they know that. And they know that serving other people in the love of God gets to the heart of the matter. That when we serve others, when we bless others, we will be blessed. And they know that by partnering with God to make an impact in this world, they're making a difference. Their lives matter. Janice was talking to me about her daughters and serving in the food pantry. And they said to her, I feel like I'm making a difference. That's huge. That's why one of our transformational values says we are designed by God to make a difference. If Jesus came to serve, not be served, then we are compelled to serve, not be served. So where are you serving? Where are you serving? Because if you think that God is going to be impressed with your titles or seniority, you're going to be disappointed. What does Jesus say is the heart of the matter? Whoever wants to be great must become a... Whoever wants to be great must become a... And whoever wants to be first among you must be your slave. That's what the Son of Man has done. He came to serve, not be served. And then to give his life away in exchange for the many who are held hostage. Where are you serving? Would you pray with me? God, I thank you. Knowing that you are all-powerful, you could just speak it and things can happen. But you have chosen to allow us to be a part of everything that you're doing. To serve other people. To grow in humility and awareness of who we are and who you are and what you're doing in this world as we get our hands dirty, as we get on our knees, as we minister to folks who need help in whatever capacity that looks like. We thank you for gifting us and resourcing us and allowing us to be a part of everything that you're doing in this world. And I pray that you would continue to call us forward one step at a time in serving you with meaning and purpose, knowing that our lives make a difference. Pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. If you want to find out more about how you can be a servant, I'm really excited because after the early service I saw folks gathered out there just outside this door today. If you are like the rest of us and you realize that you will never have enough time to serve, but you're going to do it anyway because the cause of Christ is greater than anything else that we could spend our lives on. If you are not content to just come to church and be served, but instead want your life to have an impact, if you someday want to hear God say to you, well done, my good and faithful, well done, my good and faithful, then just outside this door, There are some folks going to be at a table who have recognized a need in our church because they saw, you know what, we've got a lot of great stuff going on. We've got a lot of great stories to tell, but we sometimes don't do well in connecting people who want to serve with opportunities to serve. And so they said, we're going to work on that. We're going to fix that. And I appreciate that. And they're right outside this door. And if you want to find a place to serve, they're going to be there. They've got some forms. It's just a matter of signing your contact information on there, saying, this is where I want to serve. That information will be passed along to the people who are leading ministries. They will contact you, let you know, here's what's going on. Here's where we need your help. And they're going to plug you in. Okay? So make sure you stop by there. We want, again, I'm not beating up. I know there's a lot of folks serving in a lot of ways. And I'm proud as I could be of you for that. But if you're not plugged in somewhere to serve, we want to challenge you. Step in. Be blessed. Be a blessing. God bless you.